I can see a strain coming from Motilal Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi, my father. And the strain is that your purpose in life is to search for the truth. Even I don't view myself as a politician. I'm a seeker of the truth. I seek in everything I do. My grandmother told me that we've always had dogs. And it's just been a thing in our family that we always have dogs. The dogs are almost like family.
I suddenly disappear. You find Jawaharlal Nehru sitting here. क्या पूछोगे उनसे?
I say to him, tell me the one thing that you think I should never ever do. And I know the answer to that.
What is that?
Compromise with RSS.
नमस्कार, वेलकम टू द नेहरू सेंटर। नेहरू सेंटर में आपका स्वागत है। और आज एक विशेष व्यक्ति से हम लोग बात करना चाहते हैं। मैं उनका थोड़ा परिचय अपनी तरफ से दे दूं। उनका नाम है राहुल गांधी। पिछले 20-25 साल से देश का राजनीतिक पटल आप माने तो उसमें बहुत प्रमुख रूप से अपनी एक भूमिका निभाते रहे हैं। तो राहुल जी, थैंक यू फॉर गिविंग टाइम। आप पार्लियामेंट चल रही है, उस बीच में समय दिया, इट्स रियली ग्रेटफुल। आपका क्योंकि परिवार रहा है, स्वाभाविक नेहरू जी से जुड़े रहे हैं। व्हाट आर योर फर्स्ट मेमोरीज ऑफ हिम? फैमिली में कैसे उनके बारे में सुना, क्या सुना? इंदिरा जी से सुना, राजीव जी से कुछ, समथिंग फ्रॉम सोनिया जी?
I've never been asked that question before, and when you're asking me that, he was everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And later I realized that in a lot of the things that my grandmother used to say to me, and the way she used to think about things, it came from him.
Achha.
But if you were to ask me what is my first memory, when did I first hear of him, I can't really tell you. I don't have one memory. And also, I mean, my grandmother would talk about him as Papa, you know, as
Papa
father.
या Papu?
Both.
Okay.
I mean, to me, she would say my Papa or Papu. And she would talk about him just as a, you know, like the same way I talk about my mother or my father, and experiences, you know, that, for example, he really liked the mountains. Then I remember we were in Kashmir once and she said, oh, you know, he almost died. He fell into a glacier.
ये कब की बात है?
I think he had gone trekking and then he had fallen into some glacier and then...
When he was Prime Minister?
No, much before. Yeah. So that story I remember. But I can't place which was the first time I heard of him. Also, the other thing that's underestimated, that the sense I got is that Jawaharlal Nehru was fundamentally shaped by his father. So his father also had a very important role in who he was and what he became. Underestimated role. Motilal ji. And his father was a very particular type of person. When you know, when Gandhi ji was thrown out of the train in England, so my great-grandfather and his cousins decided that they would go to the railway station, Allahabad railway station, and throw some Britishers out of first class. Yeah. You know, so they went there and they pulled some Britishers out and threw them out of first class. It's not known. But that was his spirit was very interesting. He was a very unconventional person, you know, and he shaped, it's very clear to me that he shaped my great-grandfather. This idea that is very deep in my family, that politics is actually about truth. And that the idea of having an image of you, a public image of you, is a fundamentally flawed idea. No matter how beneficial it might be, it's a fundamentally flawed idea. That is the central idea that Gandhiji, of course, completely lived by and took. And parallelly, Jawaharlal Nehru was also doing that. You know, I mean, I in his autobiography, I think, or one of his books, he writes that, you know, one of the things that's made me happiest in my life is that I've always had the courage to tell the truth.
Yes,
you know?
Yes.
He says that. So it is this idea that, to me, is actually Nehru.
Rahul ji, I think now that you've been telling me this, and I think it's एक बड़ा इलाका खुलता है। जैसे जैसे आप बड़े हुए, कैसे कैसे ये कहानियां which came from more of a personal side of Indira ji, Pandit ji and others, और स्वाभाविक है कि since they were all political people and came through a great tumultuous period, you know, politics must have been as much a part of their life as anything else. How did you come to start knowing, say, the political Nehru, the political Motilal? वो ट्रांजिशन कभी फैमिली में हुआ या कभी बातचीत में हुआ?
There was no political Nehru.
Okay.
There was no political Indira Gandhi. They viewed the world as completely connected. So they did not view themselves as being politicians. If you were to ask me how they viewed themselves, all of them. I never met my great-grandfather. I never met Motilal ji. But I can see a strain coming from Motilal Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi, my father. And the strain is that your purpose in life is to search for the truth. And that's really how you view yourself. No matter what you do, that's the frame. My grandmother did not view herself as a politician. If you were to ask me, she viewed herself as somebody who was living their life and had multiple things that they were doing. And the idea that, there's no way you can take a Jawaharlal Nehru and encompass him by politics, right? Because my immediate response to you would be, okay, what about author? What about prisoner? What about resistor? What about, friend? So even I don't view myself as a politician. Other people say you're a politician, but no, I'm a seeker of the truth. I seek in everything I do, right? And I think that's a much better frame to understand them. The other strain that is there, and again, it was there in my father, it was there in my grandmother, and it was there in my great-grandfather, which is that they're not interested in what you think of them. They're not interested in what you will think of them. They're interested in action. They're interested in, I'm doing this now. And this is correct for me to do now. I'm not incentivized by what you will think of me 20 years from today or 30 years from today. So that other strain, right, that you're searching for your truth, which is why Mahatma Gandhi became such a big part of my great-grandfather's life, because it was a collective journey with Mahatma Gandhi as sort of, in the Indian tradition, as the guru, as the guide. But these two strains I see very clearly, that they don't really care what people will think of them. They're not acting because people think they should act like that. Never. They're acting because this is what we think is true. Now, they might come to what is true by listening to people.
ठीक बात है.
मतलब वो सच कहां से आएगा, वो जनता से आएगा.
खुले दिमाग के खुले दिल के लोग.
हाँ, right?
I think ये अच्छा हुआ, because lot of things about Pandit ji also, and later on Indira ji also, although suddenly start opening up in front of me. जैसे I think the bravery, the bravado, the honestness in many of Nehruji's letters. आजकल अगर आप देखें, I don't want to compare him with anybody. I don't think Nehru is really comparable. But करें तो कहीं वो नहीं मिलता है. I think the kind of way in which he said things which he wanted to, even confront people, even with his very, very close friends. For example, much of that is made out between Patel and Nehru is because they opened up their hearts to each other, and I think they were much more honest than many of us would ever dare to be. I think a lot of that opens up a very new line into thinking about Nehru.
Patel and Nehru, they were friends, and they were great friends, but they had disagreements on direction. And that's perfectly fine.
That's perfectly fine.
Even Mahatma Gandhi and Nehru had some differences on direction. But these two strains I clearly see, and I see them in myself also. They are damaging also politically in today's context.
कैसे?
Because आजकल लोग सच्चाई नहीं सुनना चाहते. But somebody has to tell it. As a politician, if you frame it that way, it's easier to say, भाई आप ये सुनना चाहते हो, बता देता हूँ. But my soul doesn't let me do it. I just can't. And I'm like, okay, I'll take the hit. I'm happy to take the hit. But I'm not going to veer off from the truth because you want me to. It's like ek prakar ki, I don't know what it is.
Pandit Nehru did both during the freedom movement and as Prime Minister. He did a lot of things that conventionally anybody who's a normal politician would not have dared to do. His work on the way he looked at inequality, his work on tenancy reform, his work on zamindari, his work on economic policy, his work the way he restructured the whole of India. And I think, he did some outstanding and absolutely remarkable work, in spite of whatever people, go around saying. And I think that's why he was always much more of a statesman than anything else. How is it he was able to finally, get a country that comes out of colonialism, that's much more I won't say backward looking, but say much more traditional at that point. We've always been a very, very religious society. Superstitions have always been there. How is it that, because you're saying that, today you said sometimes वो सच्चाई शायद लोगों में ना उस तरीके से जा पाए, and as you said कि you also sometimes feel कि उसका एक backlash आता है या political success नहीं आता. How is it that somebody like him was able to do that? And perhaps is it because India as a society, as a voters, we've changed slightly, या थोड़ा माहौल कुछ वैसा है? I mean, where do you peg it? Because आप तो इतना घूमते हो ना, आप connect करते हो लोगों से.
We were in a much harder situation in 1935 than we are today. We were ruled by the British. The large mass of India was ruled by the British. It was a partnership between the British and the Maharajas, between the Maharajas' bureaucracy, between the Maharajas' armies, between the Maharajas' business system and the British. And the Indian people were completely squeezed. In some ways similar as to what's going on today with Adani, Ambani and stuff. But we were much more courageous at that time than we are today. Today, what is missing is certainly at the leadership level and also overall, people are scared, right? And these people were not scared. I mean, their whole thing, Gandhi, Nehru, Patel, Ambedkar, their whole thing was confronting fear, becoming friends with your fear. And really that's what they taught. Nehru didn't teach socialism or politics or science. No, Gandhi didn't teach any of those things. All Gandhi and Nehru did was they told India, they showed India that you can be brave, you can be courageous. And millions of people followed them. So that to me is the difference. All human endeavor, all powerful human endeavor is a confrontation of fear. Whether you're a scientist or you're an engineer, whatever you are, if you're doing something well, what you're actually doing is confronting your fear. You're saying, okay, these gentlemen are fighting the British Empire. That is scary.
That is scary.
I mean, that's a very scary thing. They are going to jail, they are being beaten up. They can be killed. If the British Empire wanted to kill Mahatma Gandhi or wanted to kill Nehru, it was like it was like that. So you are sitting there facing death. That's why these people arise.
Also, Rahul, it takes far greater strength for passive, non-violent resistance than any other. I think non-violent resistance is, you need to be probably the bravest. Samne banduk ho, lat ho, and all that you are raising is your moral unity.
And
it's very difficult.
If you want to do non-violence resistance, then truth is your only weapon.
Truth is your only.
It's that Arjun story, that no matter what you did to Nehru, Mahatma Gandhi, Ambedkar, no matter what you did to them, they were not budging from the truth. That's why they became who they became. So Nehru's the idea of resistance and clarity about the truth and bravery. That's what it is.
Also, let me ask you one question, and whether you also got some idea from Indira ji from this. At the time of Nehru, he was one among stalwarts. I mean, as you say, probably any one of them could have become India's Prime Minister. The others were great stalwarts themselves, okay? And I think his greatness was that he was great amongst greats.
I think you could have taken, I suspect that in that time, the Congress party probably had a pool of 50 people who could all lead India. Many of them we know, certainly Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Patel, Bose, many of them we don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
And many were in the States. But
many were in the
probably
States.
Equally capable.
Yeah, equally capable. Just in a different place in the freedom struggle. But what the freedom struggle was doing, freedom struggle was like sandpaper.
Like sandpaper.
Yeah. So it was just removing everything that was not truthful. If you're fighting the British and you have a single lie, they'll get you. Like today, if you're fighting the BJP and you have anything to hide, you've been corrupt or you've got anything to hide, you're finished. So what protects you in an environment when there is oppression? The truth. The reason I can say whatever I want is because the truth protects me. And I don't run off suddenly from the truth. And if I don't run off from the truth, I'm protected by the truth. So that's what these leaders were showing. That's what an Indian leader is.
So Rahul ji, एक बताइए, take these leaders and the fact that while they were very popular, you know, Sardar Sahab ko le lijiye, Nehru ji, Gandhi ji, of course, even Maulana Azad, all the others, I mean, each one of them was extremely popular. They were popular in spite of many of their ideas that directly confronted many other beliefs in society, whether it's on caste or religion.
Let me correct you.
How come they still were able to maintain that confidence?
Let me correct you. Actually, if you look at Gandhi carefully, you will find that he was extremely unpopular with the Indian elite. They hated him.
Elite, yes.
They absolutely hated him. The newspapers hated him. The businesses hated him. The Maharajas hated him. The British hated him. The masses liked him. Right? So, and slowly, as the masses lined up behind him more and more, then others started to like him.
How come there was a particularly different kind of leadership that leads India in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and through extremely tough times, leads them against probably the world's greatest empire the world has seen.
My favorite.
What's the difference today?
My favorite story is Fidel Castro story. So a journalist goes to Fidel Castro and he says, you're a genius. And Fidel Castro says, why? American journalist. He says, why? He says, because you've found these guys, Che Guevara, Camilo Cienfuegos, these guys are unbelievable guys. They're ready to die for the revolution. What is your technique? How do you manage them? And how do you find them? So Fidel Castro looked at him and said, you're an idiot. He says, I don't find them and I don't manage them. So he's like, what do you mean? He's like, no, I don't do it. Batista does it.
Achha.
So all I do is, I stand in one place and these people come. When Batista was the man he was fighting. When Batista's army comes, half of them run and the other half get killed. What's left are the people you're talking about. So it is always the attacking force that creates the leadership. It's never the leadership that is being created. This is a selection process. There were millions of people who stood against the British. Many of them died. Many of them ran away. Many of them colluded. And these people were persistent. They kept standing there. They didn't back down. And that's why you view them as leaders. Savarkar's picture would have been up here if he hadn't signed that letter. The British unselected Savarkar. They broke him. That's just what happened. They couldn't break him. They couldn't break him. They couldn't break Patel. They couldn't break Bose. They couldn't break Ambedkar. Simple. So leadership is always about standing against the pressure.
Are these also part of the legacy of Nehru that inspires you or motivates you? Or is there anything else?
I go with the same frame that what my grandmother told me. Nehru is the people of India. Nehru exists because of the people of India. Nehru is an expression of the people of India. If the people of India were not there, meaningless. If that connection with the people of India was not there, meaningless. Right? So to me, yes, Nehru ji is an inspiration, but he's as much an inspiration to me as anybody who's doing work, fighting for the truth, standing for the truth, and not backing down. Of course, he's my relative, so I have a different feeling towards him. I have a feeling of probably a much deeper connection with him. But in Nehru, I see an open mind, a questioning mind. I see a brave person, and I see somebody who doesn't veer off from the truth. That's it.
मैं एक लेकिन पूछना चाह रहा था कि that is something I sometimes am not able to figure out in Nehru's case. He does takes part of the freedom struggle. It's a thing that involves him so much. But sometimes when you read his writings, you especially Discovery of India, which I think is his greatest book, you see a breadth and a vision and a depth that is unparalleled. Where do you think that came from? And I'm not asking his great-grandchild right now. I'm asking you as a person, as an Indian citizen, as a world citizen. ये कहाँ से आया उसमें?
So if you were to take a Nehru and you were to compare him to a Gandhi, they both have massive depth and breadth in different directions. So Nehru is looking into the future. Nehru is looking around him. Nehru is looking the world around him. And he's going in. The search for internal observation.
राहुल जी, एक चीज पर आते हैं, मैं सोचा कि इस पे भी जरूर बात करें. One of the greatest legacies.
Sorry, final thing. And this my father also had, and my grandmother also had, my sister has, I have. Which is curiosity in everything and giving value to everything. Meaning if I go and talk to Mr. Bill Gates, and then I go and talk to Chetram Mochi, the curiosity is the same. The interest is the same. The fact that this man is very rich, or this is a very powerful system, or this is a very big system, versus that is a very not so powerful system, not so wealthy, makes no difference to me. And that's, I think, comes from my great-grandfather. It's compassion. That I'm not interested in who you are. I'm interested in what you're feeling. I'm looking for what feeling is in you. And I'm also looking for what feeling is in him. I don't really care that you're a billionaire or you're a poor person or you're whoever you are. And so that curiosity is unbounded. That's why I reacted to the politician. I'm not a politician. And I refuse to be boxed into this structure that somebody just makes up and says. I'm a politician or I'm a businessman or I'm an academic. I just, these are labels. I don't buy them.
Lot of, this is how Nehru ji jab कहते हैं भारत माता कौन है, who's Bharat Mata, this is I think how he talks about. एक और चीज जो अब मैं पूछना चाह रहा था, amongst the great legacies of Nehru, and there have been many, I'm not going to talk about his economic and other legacy, maybe we'll do it if we have time later. एक चीज जो इस समय somehow it's under question, under threat, under pressure is this whole thing of democracy. And I think that's one of the greatest things that he established. It's very easy to say कि India तो democratic हो ही जाता. And a lot of people say कि what is there, constitution talked of an election. Elections is not democracy. Having a good constitution does not ensure there is democracy. People also don't necessarily ensure democracy, even if they want a democracy. It's how the leader sets the initial patterns, how he democratizes institutions, how he instills both within himself and to the others the spirit of democracy. वो आपको क्या लगता है, क्या ऐसी 3-4-5 चीजें थी when he really became a hero and a warrior of democracy, और इस समय जो उस पे challenges आ रहे हैं, I want to talk you to tell me a little bit about that.
Again, there are two religious philosophies in India. Shaiva philosophy is completely democratic. There's nothing undemocratic about the Shaiva philosophy, right? Guru Nanak is completely democratic. Kabir is completely democratic. They do not believe in a hierarchy. They do not believe in a caste structure. They're purely democratic. So there is a very profound and deep democratic strain in India. And Gandhiji represented that strain. My great-grandfather represented that strain. Ambedkar ji represented that strain. And that is what is under attack. What is under attack is not just the democratic institution of our country. What is under attack is a particular religious philosophy that underpins that democracy. The constitution is, the ideas in the constitution are 3,000 years old. So what is under attack is not just a book. What is under attack is a set of religious philosophies that are inconvenient to the RSS. And that is what Gandhi used to defend, and that's why he died.
So what you're saying in the, that Nehru was as much somebody who imbibed or great believer in the great intellectual and philosophical traditions of the 17th and 18th centuries, as much as in the India that you
No,
have.
what I'm saying is that, I'm saying something different. I'm saying that Nehru is much, much closer to an Indian philosophy than he is to any Western idea.
Correct.
But he's open to Western ideas. So he's open to science. He's open to looking at different cultures. But his foundation comes from the Indian spiritual tradition.
So what you're saying is really open to modernism. As everything modernizes, it
as are all people who follow this tradition.
Yeah.
Who are these people? What are they doing? Why are they doing it? How are they like me? This is the Indian spiritual tradition. That's why we absorb everything.
So in many senses, actually, in 47, to establish it, put it part of that, get this continuity with our ancient tradition, that's, I think, a battle or a war that Nehru fought and fought very adequately and substantially. But इस समय जो इस पर threat आ रहा है, and many people also call it almost like an existential threat. इस समय क्या है that needs to happen, and you're calling yourself a lot of things, and I perfectly agree with that. But somewhere or the other, you're also a public person. So somewhere or the other, we also have this great duty upon our head to look at what he did in 47, 48 and continue to do that today.
What a Nehru or a Gandhi did was tell India the reality of what they were facing. India was refusing to accept that for many years that they were enslaved by the British. Large majority of our elite was perfectly happy with the British, right? And what Gandhiji and Nehru said was, this is slavery. You will never be successful under the British. So in a sense, they awakened India and made India look at the truth. Now India has certain truths which India is not ready to face right now. It's going to have to face them. There's no way out. You're going to have to face them. You're going to have to develop the courage to face them. You have huge unemployment. Your entire economic system has failed. You have a complete lack of harmony in the country. These are truths. And these things are damaging. They're damaging for the future of India. So certain people have to stand for the truth and say, this is it. And they have to defend the truth. Sooner rather than later, everybody will have to face it. I mean, you're seeing today, for example, that the United States has imposed tariffs on us. It's going to have huge economic consequences. We're going to have to face it. Modiji's hug is not going to resolve it. Right? Modi going and hugging Trump, and he gave him a dressing down out there, and and basically Modi just bowed his head and came back. So that's not the type of thing a Jawaharlal Nehru would do.
Certainly.
Or an Indira Gandhi would do, or Mahatma Gandhi would do. So to me, the act of politics is about publicly standing for the truth. The other thing, Nehru, which amazed me, I went to the jail, one of the jails. I think it was Naini, but I'm not sure. I happened to be going to that jail, and the jailer told me, your great grandfather was here. So I said, aapko main dikhata hu. And he took me to the cell where my great grandfather was, small little place. He was in solitary confinement. And then he said, then we looked at it, and then he said, main aapko visitor's book dikhana chahta hu. He showed me the visitor's book. And now that visitor's book is written by Nehru when he's leaving jail, probably a 3-year term or something. And what do you think he's saying in that book? He's thanking the jailers.
Acha.
Yeah. And he said, thank you for giving me such a great time. Thank you for teaching me so much. Thank you for everything you've done for me. Now, so these people had no enemies. They didn't view the world as me and my enemy. They understood very well that there were forces that were resulting in what was going on. And what you had to fight was the forces.
मैं कह रहा हूँ दो चीजें जो नेहरू जी के बारे में lot of people know, a lot of people don't, is that there are many shades to his personal life. I think 2 things that stand out. One is his pets, and I think that's something which is in part of your family's tradition. इंदिरा जी के पास रहे हैं, आपके पास रहे हैं. Tell us a little bit about that from Nehru's time to yours.
Now that you say it, one of the first times I heard about my great grandfather was when my grandmother told me that we've always had dogs.
Achha.
Right. And it's just been a thing in our family that we always have dogs. There's never been a time in my life where we haven't had dogs. And we are very fond of all animals. Going to the forest, seeing wildlife. My mother does bird watching in her garden. She knows all the birds, all the plants. So that curiosity has been there. The dogs are almost like family.
Have you kept pets other than dogs?
Pets other than dogs. We had a parrot, cat we had, rabbits we had once.
Okay, and any traditions of food and all that come from Panditji's time, or from your family traditions in your?
Yeah. We at lunch we always have desi food, Kashmiri food. often. Yeah.
Acha.
So dum aloo, khatte aloo, kofta, some types of bhindi. There's a bunch of things that my mother does.
Acha. And in Indraji's time also?
Same, always.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and how do you get cooks to make that?
Oh, it's handed down. So our cook was taught by the earlier cook, was taught by the earlier cook, was taught by the earlier cook. Yeah, so that's there.
So in many senses, Nehruji remains in many ways in your family.
Our tailor is the great-great-grandson. Mama's tailor is the great-great-great-grandson of the gentleman who invented the Nehru jacket, who was my great-grandfather's tailor. Yeah.
Oh, acha. Wow.
Yeah.
I think
he made the Nehru jacket.
He made the Nehru jacket.
Oh.
These days some people try and name it as somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Because हम लोग तो उसको नेहरू जैकेट ही जानते थे. Finally, राहुल जी पूछना था.
आजकल उस पे नरेंद्र मोदी नाम लिखता है.
हाँ भाई. Final question, Rahul ji. Suppose suddenly, there is a flash.
Oh, there's one other thing that Dadi taught me that went into my head and I just follow, which she said she got from my great-grandfather, was that whatever happens, do 1 hour of exercise every day.
हाँ, अच्छी. वो एक सवाल मैं भूल गया, मैं पूछना चाह रहा था.
So I saw that. I mean, throughout her life, I never saw a day when Dadi didn't do 1 hour of exercise ever. It just didn't
योगा
happen.
करती थी या पता नहीं.
उनका एक पीला रंग का एक मैट सा था एंड उस पे वो एक्सरसाइजेज करती थी. उसमें योगा की एक्सरसाइजेज भी थी, बट फिर वो उनकी भी एक्सरसाइजेज थी.
पंडित नेहरू तो योगा करते थे. उनकी कई
अगेन द सेम. आई थिंक द एक्सरसाइजेज वर द सेम.
अच्छा.
So there was some yoga in it, but there was also just regular physical exercise.
So you
it
do
was a
little
routine.
bit of that or different?
No, mine. I mean, I never actually listed what she used to do, and I never really knew what the full routine was. But I do my own. I do judo and I do other stuff.
Okay. Now you have to answer this last question. Suppose I suddenly disappear and you find Jawaharlal Nehru sitting here. क्या पूछोगे उनसे? आपको 5 मिनट मिलते हैं उससे बात करने में. क्या बात करोगे?
I'd say to him, tell me the one thing that you think I should never ever do.
Okay. Or?
And I know the answer to that.
What is that?
Compromise with the RSS.
ठीक है. I think it's been really, really great. And thank you on behalf of the Nehru Center.